Sports Betting Weekly, sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is easy sports data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win!
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. You were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. We are sponsored by ChampionshipFootballs.com. ChampionshipFootballs.com, the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. And I'm pretty sure that when we get around to talking to Wes, he'll tell you that he likes his Kansas City Chiefs because that one took 50 years to make. We are coming to you on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. You might be watching us on SportsBettingWeeklyLive.com. We are now live, if it is anywhere where you are, and it's Thursday, and it's 8 o'clock on the Eastern Seaboard, Eastern Time, then you're watching me doing what I'm doing right now with Wes and John. Blackhawk Wes, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here.
All right, as always, we start with our number one goal in mind is to make money right now. Now, my early plays are 3-1, so I do have a play that I could hop on in the second half that I lost the first half, but I'm not chasing it because it was the under in the Michigan game, and I don't really like unders. Unders are not good for me to bet. I don't like betting unders. I bet them when I see a possibility, and I'm still live on the game. But what about you? What do you got right now that you are playing that we could hop on live?
Well, I jumped on it earlier, and I'm about to go dip in again, but I'm on Philadelphia. Pittsburgh scored 3 goals real quick in under 5 minutes in the game. That's not normal, and these two teams really don't like each other. I jumped on it at plus 3.5 Philadelphia. Philly popped a goal in, and they're starting to play a little bit tougher. So right now, plus 2 Philadelphia is the play. And you just said you don't like unders, but that over-under is up to 8.5. I don't think we get another 5 goals in this game to go over 8.5. So I am looking on under, probably half or quarter unit on it. But I think that this game's going to settle in a little bit. There's probably going to be 7 or 8 goals, but I don't think we see 9.
Okay, so we're gonna pay attention to that one. Then we're gonna hop over to talk to John from GMF Sports Consultant. What are you looking at, John?
That was actually a game I was looking at as well because I was actually on the Flyers tonight. So I actually took them at plus 2.5. I believe they're around minus 146 on my book. So I was keeping an eye on that. So I jumped on them at plus 2.5. They're in the intermission right now going into the second period. And then also I haven't checked yet, but just to kind of give a different opinion, I'll be keeping an eye on the Knicks as well for NBA.
All right, so let's check that out. What time do they start?
The Knicks are on right now. They should be in the first quarter.
They're right. So it's right about the end of the first quarter, and they've got a 6-point lead. They've been playing very, very well, and I know because Mikey from the DC show bets them a lot. All right, so we are live on some action for the game. Those are for the game. Now I'm going to go back to that hockey and see where we're at in terms of the games that we could hop on to catch something in the second period. So the Pittsburgh game, that just go into the second, or the second's winding down?
Going into the second. Yep.
So did they score in the second, or did they score in the first?
They scored 4 goals in the first, and so if it's 1.5, I'm not looking right now, but if it's 1.5 second, I would go over there. But given what the first period did, I think it's going to be at 2.
Yeah, so we're gonna sit tight on that one. All right, so we've got a full show. The live action, though, for me is always exciting. And again, normally I'll be chasing my own stuff, but right now I'm on winners. I do apologize. I got them out late to you today, guys, with the text because I was working on Joe's videos. But we have what I'm calling the semifinals. No, the quarterfinals. These are the quarterfinals. So, John, you're a very knowledgeable horse racing guy. Whether or not you're on the Triple Crown trial yet, you know how it works. So these races lead to the next races. So you got to win the Tampa Bay Derby to get to the Florida Derby. You got to win the San Felipe to get to Santa Anita Derby. But the race after that is the Final Four, the Final 20. It is the Derby. Do you foresee? Let's try English. Do you foresee yourself, John, put down any future bets?
Probably not. This is probably an instance. I haven't really been following it too much. So now is an instant where if you're looking to bet into the Derby, these are the races where you want to watch. So then that way you can kind of gauge and get some feel and get some idea of the horses and everything like that. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on this and kind of seeing. And if I take a look at the races this week and if somebody catches my eye, then I'll kind of keep that, in the back of my mind moving forward as we get, into these later races here.
Well, yeah, Wes, this is really losing you go home kind of thing.
It is. I mean, these are races, and there are some really good horses racing this weekend. And to answer the question about the futures are fun if you can find some value in them. But it's not a part of my overall strategy, and it's really because I want to get paid in 3 hours. I don't really want to have to wait a few months. So to throw a piece of some winning at futures, whether it's horses or anywhere else. That's where I'll go. But I love this weekend. It's exciting. There's some good racing at Santa Anita and at the Big A.
No, and that really what it becomes down to. You've got the WTF money, Mo for the Mo Radio shows. It's the money that you put on the wheel with the pretty girl at the front of the casino. It's the money you're going to throw in the trash, basically, because the chances of you winning those bets. But, anything over 40-1, and I like it, but I'm telling you right now, guys, if you're looking to do a future for the Derby, you got to get it in before these races, because if you do like the horse and he wins, he cuts in half instantly. You're going to go from 40-20, which is really the whole reason our friends at Prop Swap were born, for those opportunities right there. So we are going to talk to Joe from Connecticut, again, another one of the public guys who have been with us for years and years and years, and he really knows his stuff. So what we're going to do is we've got him talking about all three races. Now, I did some bad math before I talked to Joe, and for some reason I had these races spread out over another hour that they're not. So it is actually going to be 30 minutes. There's about 30 minutes of racing that we're dealing with. And then we're going to $1 million worth of purses in literally 35 minutes. So that's where horse racing is really excited. Unlike sports betting where the games are 3 hours apart, there's a East Coast, then another East Coast, and then a West Coast, and boom, boom, boom. And you mentioned Santa Anita. So let's start with Santa Anita for you, Wes. What's jumping out at you there?
Well, obviously the 6th race and the 8th race, but I think that we're going to be looking at some horses that there's a couple names that I like that I think are going to be real short odds come that first Saturday in May.
Yeah, well, you know what they do, and we talked about it with Joe. And we're going to get to one of those here in just a second. We're going to start with his New York races, but this is it. The California horses are good horses. The problem I had, and we'll talk about it with Joe, is 4-horse fields for the Santa Anita Derby don't just do anything for me. You know what I mean?
But there's not a lot of money to be made on a 4-horse field either.
No, from a betting standpoint, it's horrible. So let's do this. Let's go out to Joe. The thing with Joe coming from Connecticut is he's got a different aspect of this thing, because you know what? I don't know about you two. I've been to all the racetracks in New York, but these guys that live there, they go a lot because it's pretty easy to get in and out. When Tommy and I went up to Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup, it was amazingly easier than going to a Raider game or Charger game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we're gonna talk to him about the Gotham, and again, he's gone to these racetracks. So let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, Aqueduct is no Saratoga, but Aqueduct, it's a nice place to make some bets. They got a little casino in there. Maybe they'll have sports gambling soon, but it's a nice place to wager some pesos. So
what do you think? Is it a good field?
The Gotham's an interesting field. I think Doug O'Neill brings over a horse this year in the Gotham. He does that every so often. He did it with I'll Have Another in 2009. He's doing it again on Saturday with with the 4 Wipe the Slate with Caramouche riding. It'll be interesting to see how live he is. Pletcher, you can't ever bet against them. Bob Baffert is coming east. Jimmy Jerkins has a horse. Chad Brown is 2. The race is live. And you know what? It'll be very, very interesting to see who emerges from this race as a Wood Memorial contender, and which of these jockeys can sort of stay afloat and stay on a Derby contender and maybe ride him to the first week in May.
So that's 5:07 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. There's 3 races, 3 Kentucky Derby prep races in 90 minutes. And we talked about it. Even for yourself, a guy with a wife that's going to have a baby any day, you could get away for 90 minutes. You know what I mean?
Anytime you can pop on Wi-Fi, it's worth it.
Exactly. All right. So, and that race is nice because they've got the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. So the New York racetracks are going to have a nice pick 4 that ends at the Gotham between their 252, that's 450, 575. So yeah, almost $1 million, a little shy, probably about 900, 875, somewhere around there. So we're looking forward to this weekend. Remember, all our plays, Joe's plays and my plays are going to go out. Now, last week we had some overlap. I didn't look to see if they won because I was too busy drinking margaritas, but we'll talk to you again in a little bit.
Talk soon.
All right, so I'm not sure if I told you guys the margarita story because it's been a crazy week for me, but literally I'm at the Old Town Tequila Factory with my phone on my lap, the racing form under my table because I'm at a lunch with another couple. They were cool, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like anybody was saying to me, who do you got in the 9th? You know what I mean? They were oblivious to it. And my balance just going higher and higher and higher because, as you know, in 10 races, I bet, I had a winning percentage of 90%. I had a trifecta percentage of 60%, and I hit 80% of the exactas. So obviously I was reading the racing form. But as you guys know, when you're winning, life kind of just drifts by, doesn't it, Wes?
It sure does. And you feel like you can't lose. And there's nothing like cashing a ticket, and especially on the horses, too, because you go back, depending on the track. If you're betting the harnesses like me, you go back 9 minutes later, you do it again. But there's nothing like it. Especially you watch the horse go down the stretch, cross the finish line, doing what it's supposed to do for you. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, the best part, and we talk about this a lot, is when John mentioned it when he first got in the business, the very low barrier to entry, which is, of course, a business term. But at horse racing, it really is, I think, $1. I think you could put $1 in the machine, right, and get a $1 exacta. Or I think you can't do dollar doubles some places, but almost everything else you could do doubles. And then, you know, we'll talk about it when we go later in the day, some of the other things. But what we got here is a unique situation because you guys are excellent NBA guys. So what we did is we said, hey, a couple weeks back, let's offer people the ability to hang around with us basically for the weekend. You got to pay, but you know what? You're not buying me a freaking drink. If you were buying me drinks, it would cost you a lot more than $15 to hang around with me. But I will say that when I go with my buddies, there's about half dozen of us, you're only really buying one round. It's expensive, don't get me wrong, but the next 5 rounds you're drinking for free. So it's, you know, it's not, you're not really paying the piper, so to speak. But what we did is amazing. I mean, you guys just gave winner after winner after winner the first weekend. This weekend we cashed a lot of tickets, but you know, those horse racing texts that I gave, they were pretty easy because I only think in one race I had 5 pieces. And I think that was the race I won the most money. And I'll talk about that later when we get to Joe's talking about California. But it was really just special. So it's the same thing. You go to our website, it's sportsbettingweekly.com. On there, it's the cash tickets thing. And the reason we call it cash tickets is really that's what it's all about. If you think that you're going to be the guy that makes a living off of your bets, you know what? God bless you. God bless you, okay? I'm going to get my, when I give my Oscar speech out, okay, for best screenplay, I am going to mention you guys, the 2% of you that make a living off it. For most of us, it's just fun. It's a hobby. And as long as you're cashing tickets, you can buy the round when it's your turn. There's nothing worse, dude, when you're in a sports book with a half dozen guys, it's your turn for a round. It's like $70, say, $10 a person and a tip. And you don't got it. You got to borrow from the guy who's the next round and hoping that you cash. Or you can have tickets in your pocket. Then you cash them as you need them. And that's what you do when you win all day with us. And these guys, I'm telling you, they were all in the same time zone last week. So they were hitting us up early. Normally, Wes is a little earlier than us, but then it's me and John. But he was up. What did we say? You won $12 on video blackjack and had 4 free beers before breakfast, right?
It was one of the greatest starts to my day I can remember. It was at about 8 o'clock in the morning. I laid some action on FCS. By 8:15, I was $7 on a video blackjack, and I was 4 beers in. I got paid $7 to drink 4 beers, and the FCS ticket cashed about an hour after that. So it was fantastic. And I'm on the Pacific time zone, so that watching a football kickoff at 10 o'clock in the morning, it was fantastic.
There's a handful of things, John, that suck because you're in the Pacific time zone when it comes to sports betting, right? But there's so many more that are great. I mean, the bottom line is you don't have to go to work. I used to have to go to work. So I went to bed at halftime of the game, and I would wake up, and as you know, there's sometimes in the NFL a tale of two halves, and you went to bed winning, you woke up losing. Really. What's the worst thing, though, of all the things that we have to deal with, John, for betting on these sports from the West Coast that you don't like the most?
It's just a process of just making sure kind of what you do the night before that you're ready to go at 9 a.m. I mean, you literally, if you're going to play these early games, you got to get your tickets in, at 8:30, a.m. in the morning. So you got to kind of pace yourself a little bit. If you have friends or family, or if you're going out to dinner, that Friday night time kind of gets dwindled down a little bit because, like I said, action when you're on the West Coast, it goes all day from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. So you could be betting the East Coast game at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you got to stay up all day and bet that late night Hawaii game or something,
Well, I would agree with you that it's that you need an alarm clock. There's not a week that goes by during football season that I don't have an alarm clock. I will have an alarm clock set for this weekend and going forward pretty much every weekend because of not during the week. I'll be up because remember, in a couple Thursdays, we'll be talking about the games that are playing right now. We'll be betting the March Madness live on this show. So, and those games start really early too. I remember when I was in college, having the game on the radio in the parking lot and having to shut it off because I didn't, back then they didn't have radios you could take into class with you. So, all right. So when we get back from break, we're going to go out and talk to Joe about a couple more of these prep races. And again, if you don't understand how it works, think about these are the quarterfinals. These horses got to run well. Probably top 3 finish, Wes? Would you agree to keep going?
Top 3 finish to keep going, I would say.
Yeah. All right, and so when we get back, we're going to cover that. Remember, we turned $150 into well over $1,000. I still have the main money into my account that I started with. So you're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. We're on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. You can catch us at sportsbettingweeklylive.com and live Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the app that's worth its weight in Bitcoin, the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Be fearless at MMA Long Island and Seituha Karate. Located at 28 Colt Court in Ronkonkoma, MMA Long Island is the martial arts school for you if you want to learn combat-proven techniques, build confidence, discipline, and self-esteem while learning real martial arts to fight back against bullies, predators, and peer pressure. MMA Long Island offers group and private lessons for all ages and levels in traditional Goju-Ryu Karate, MMA, and self-defense. MMA Long Island is one of Long Island's most affordable martial arts schools. There are no promotion, belt, or membership fees, and family discounts are available. All classes are taught by 7th degree black belt Sensei John Benedict with over 30 years teaching experience. So whether you want to get in the ring or protect yourself and your family, MMA Long Island can help you reach your goals. Visit MMALongIsland.com. That's MMALongIsland.com or call or text 516-381-9660. That's 516-381-9660.
Do current market conditions have you nervous? Our experienced team of financial professionals at Heritage Harbor Financial Associates understands that no two investors are alike. We all have different goals, needs, and appetites for risk. That's why the one-size-fits-all approach does not work, especially when planning for retirement. At Heritage Harbor Financial Associates, we analyze your unique investment style so that you can work toward your individual retirement goals on your terms. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates can help you take steps to reach your retirement goals by providing a wide array of financial products to fit your needs, even for the risk adverse. Give us a call at 631-331-6599 to learn more or to set up an appointment with one of our financial professionals. You can also find us on the web at hhfa.org or on Facebook at facebook.com/hhfa.org. Our number again is 631-331-6599. That's 631-331-6599. Investments in stock, bonds, and mutual funds and variable annuities are not FDIC insured and are subject to fluctuation in value and market risk, including loss of principal. Heritage Harbor Financial Associates offers securities through AXA Advisors LLC, New York, New York. Member FINRA, SIPC. Annuity and insurance products offered through AXA Network LLC.
Edward Lehman has been a trusted insurance advisor for over 16 years with insurance solutions for auto, home, commercial, life, and retirement. He's located at 54 Sunnyside Boulevard, Suite H in Plainview. That's just 1,000 feet south of 495. Local agent, local advice. The time to think about insurance is before you need it. So do yourself a favor and before you pay your next insurance bill, give Ed and his team a call, 516-935-3900, or visit him online at www.allstate.com/EL. Edward H. Lehman Insurance is your trusted insurance advisor.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. That could really be a tattoo. I could wear you were losing when you ought to not bet. I could wear that tattoo because I'm really pretty disciplined. But it's a great segue because I got a quick story to tell. So welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I'm Second Half Chaz. Of course, as always, we're joined by John, the owner of GMF Sports Consultants, and Black Hawk West of 151 Sports Investing. And I'm going to start with John. John, you click a lot on the phone. Do you ever bet the wrong thing and realize it too late?
It's happened more than once on specific occasions. And you want to know the worst thing is that when you're watching, you might not realize it at first, and then you're watching the game and maybe that game wins, and then you go back and you check your phone and you're like, oh man, I hit the wrong button.
Your numbers off.
Yeah,
off.
I'm like, this
so
is
Wes,
not right.
what was the bet that we talked about? Wes had us on a hot live bet. Do you remember what that bet was?
I don't.
It was the Flyers, like the Flyers.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the Flyers, and yeah, they just scored a goal. So we're
but I bet the wrong bet. I thought I was betting them plus the points, and I got them plus the money line. So I got them on the money line for plus 365.
Well,
when they're down 3-1. So if they tie this game, but then I thought to myself, shouldn't I be able to guarantee right now a win with that bet?
You may be able to if you use that cash out function.
Yeah, well, no, I don't. I'm talking about just betting the other side for more than I bet. Right? So I should be able to do that. So what's the game? It's the Philadelphia Flyers in Pittsburgh, right?
Yep.
I don't really your mistake, to tell you the truth. I don't hate that.
No. So here's what I got. I got Pittsburgh minus 301. That seems really high. Philadelphia plus 194. So that's not that big of a difference. 365, maybe it's almost double. It's almost double. But what about the puck line? Pittsburgh minus 134. Or plus 134 minus 1.5. So that's what I'm looking at. Whenever I have a bet that turns really quickly on a 5-1, 4-1, somewhere in that range, I'll look to get that money and just remove myself from that operation with an instant winner. If I can win a unit, guaranteed, and walk away, worst case scenario, though, is you win a unit. If they win, you still get the big bet. You're just basically protecting the original investment. So I'm going to pay attention to that. Unless I see it go 3-3, then I'm going to be doing the happy dance. Because if it goes 3-3, I'm definitely winning money on this. No doubt about it. All right, so
we'll all be doing a happy dance if it goes 3-3.
Let's see where we're at here. We've got some more horse racing to talk about, but I wanted to go through what we've got for the weekend because, again, it's Sports Betting Weekly, and most of my actions on weekends, except really, as you guys know, since I started following your plays with the cash tickets page at sportsbettingweekly.com, I'm betting almost every day because I have money in my account. There's money I take the money out. There's still money in there. So it's pretty nice. But the NHL's got a full slate of games this weekend. NBA All-Star Weekend. We want to talk about that. And then, of course, the NCAA is winding down. So Sunday's a light day because they go into conference tournaments. And as you know, or may not know, I've been riding the Aztecs a lot recently. They've won some money for me. But back-to-back regular conference championships, when you replace a coach that's a legend, is a pretty cool thing for a coach to do. You know, guys that replace legends usually fall on their face, don't they, Wes?
They usually do. At least the first one does. Didn't really work out very well for Dallas. Those Cowboys for a little while, and nobody can really do what Pittsburgh Steelers does, where they just, what if they had 5 coaches in their entire franchise history?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all winners.
All right, so when we're talking to John from GM Sports on the weekend, he's given us his plays. I'm going to say a solid third of them are NBA. John, am I got pretty close on that number?
Yeah, that sounds about right. My NBA plays have been kind of upticking a little bit here in the recent week or two. And obviously, when you're winning NBA plays, you're going to start betting a lot more. The trends are there. We're able to track the trends. If you've been following the Nets recently, if you've been following the Knicks, if you've been following some of these overs for like the Pelicans, some of these overs on the Suns games, if you keep following those trends, I think you'll wind up doing pretty good overall.
So what are you going to do for All-Star Weekend?
All-Star Weekend, we'll be focusing just on college basketball. So Saturday, we have a pretty decent slate like always. And then we're also going to mix in some NHL plays in there as well. All-Star Weekend, we'll kind of just keep an eye on the festivities and do that for more entertaining purposes. No real bets for All-Star NBA Weekend. And then we'll keep an eye when they return how, teams adjust. Sometimes it's a little bit of a jet lag or a little bit of delay from the several games off. So we'll kind of take it easy, and then we'll be right back in the NBA right after the All-Star break.
But, Wes, when it comes to you, I would say that the NBA being an All-Star break isn't going to impact you really much at all, right?
It's not going to impact me. I will jump in onto some NBA plays when the number jumps off the page at me. But I go to hockey first.
Sporadically, I would say. Your number, it's a solid 35-40% for hockey, I think.
For hockey, it is. And at this point, every Saturday, I've had some FCS action. This Saturday coming up, I got one that I love. Just nothing better than a juicy dog. And I also, believe it or not, I like the Oak Lawn card. It's not the most glamorous card of races, but I really like the Oak Lawn. And I've been hitting ponies every weekend.
And we talked about that with Joe from Connecticut, is that when you have the streak that I had, well, the next week it's the same racing form, but it's a different racetrack. So you have to be careful, especially when you're betting pick fours, because a lot of times at pick fours, the first race is dirt or grass, and then the second race is the opposite, and the third race is whatever the first race was. So if you put in your pick fours and you just crap the bed in the first race, you got to go look at that third race all over again. You can't bet it ahead of time. I mean, you're tearing up the pick four tickets, obviously. And that was the thing. I cashed. Oh, my God. They showed the number. I want to say I cashed 30-something out of 50-something tickets last weekend. Now, I do that. As you know, I'll use my ticket cashing percentage. That's all I care about. Hey, I bet 7 tickets. I cashed 5 of them. I don't really care how much I won. You can't do much better than that. And again, that's one of the reasons why we talk about cash tickets on the website with the plays. And really, if you think about it, if you did 100 and you just followed what I did, that 100's got to be worth $2,000 now in 2 weeks, because it's, and I bet small. I don't bet like some of you guys bet. I bet small. My wife always, when you win with Vicky, here's how it works. When we win, how much did we win? When I lose, how much did you lose? That's kind of how it works. So she says to me, how come you didn't bet more money? It was on that race where I hit, the favorite ran fourth, and I hit for like $3. I had cashed out the day before. I was only playing because the money was still in there. And as I mentioned, they were still running. It was Oaklawn, right? They were still running at Oaklawn. So you would think that I would grab the Oaklawn form this weekend. I might, Wes. I might talk to you about it. But, I've already got like 7 or 8 races. That's 30 minutes a race. That adds up to where, Breeders' Cup, like John said, you're on the West Coast. Breeders' Cup, I got to start reading the race form 2 days before. As soon as I can get it, I got to start reading it. All right, so we're going to talk about a little more horse racing now. We're going to go out to John. Let me see what we're talking with. To Joe. We're going out to Joe, and he's now going to talk to us about the Tampa Bay Derby. And I'm going to talk to you guys as well as this. Even though John said I'm not really on the Derby trail yet, I know his knowledge of horses and names, but we're going to talk to you guys when we're done with Joe about what do you think when you're handicapping a race? What's more important, the trainer or the jockey?
Yeah, for me, I immediately like to take a look at the jockeys. I know everything in my data background always tells me sort of look at the trainers, but I always feel like when I'm on track looking at the races, the jockey has to be at least live to pick a winner. And at the end of the day, when you take a look at the results, the winners are always the same 5 or 6 jockeys at every track. You see Luis Saez winning a bunch of races. You see the Ortiz brothers winning a bunch of races. You see him also punching people lately. In another jockey, Paco Lopez, getting a small suspension. That's another story. But I like to make sure my jockeys are at least live. And then I take a look at my trainers. This Tampa Bay race, you got Saffie Joseph, who has three horses in this race. He trained the early favorite for the Derby wagering last year. Didn't fare too well. He has 3 horses in this race. He wins between 25 and 30%. Todd Fletcher's got 2 horses in this race. William Mott is shipping in a horse. Mark Cossey has a horse with Dale Romans. And there's a couple other decent trainers in this race. So it's hard to just toss anybody. But looking specifically at a few jockeys here, I can convince myself to cut this field down to 7 or 8 pretty quickly. And that's probably what I'll do. And then I'll lean on the trainers a little bit. And then we'll look for a value like we always do.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. When you get rid of horses, it makes the race easier. Of course, that's Derby Day. Derby Day, you could get to where you get to 7 horses and you're saying, okay, now at least I have something to work with. These fields are 7 horses, but I will give Tampa Bay Derby a little pat on the back. Kudos. They've got the biggest purse. It's $400K. The other 2 are 300. And that Tampa
biggest
Bay,
purse of the day.
Yeah, that big Tampa Bay purse leads to the pick 3. So the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th at Tampa Bay will be giving out those pick 3s.
Yeah.
All right. So Wes, how often do you try to string more than a daily double? 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s.
Once or twice a day. Depending on how many tracks I'm betting. If I'm on one track, I'll go with one of them. And it also depends on how I'm cashing. If I'm cashing tickets left and right, then I have that WTF money that you were talking about. But if I'm win one, lose one, I'm about 50% for the day, then it becomes more business trip.
Yeah, I agree. Now, John, when you bet the ponies, do you go in like you're betting horses where you have a plan, or do you just got to do it because you happen to be at the racetrack?
I always like to go in it with a plan. So kind of just to backtrack of the same thing. Like, I want to be familiar with the track. I want to be familiar with the horses running that track. Same thing going by what Joe said. I want to be familiar with the trainers and the jockeys and everything like that. Because I think that all plays, into a factor. If you want to bet, especially horse racing and be knowledgeable and be good at it, you kind of got to factor in all these situations. So yeah, you got to go in it with some type of plan. Once again, you could just go in there with $10-20 and have fun and not really worry about it. That's okay too. But, if you want to stay consistent and stay profitable, you really got to kind of, pace yourself and have some kind of direction.
Yeah. An example is I'm a boxer. So though I will play those extended races, the pick 3s, the pick 4s, very seldom do I make it out of the first race. And so I learned over the years, okay, dude, you don't win those races. Those are going to be my last ticket of that I bet. So I'm boxing the horses. So if you box horses like I do, then you've got to kind of find and isolate a couple that I call my key horses if I'm going to look. And sometimes I don't have a key horse. I like all these horses. I could see any of these horses win in the race. And so then I got to use 4 pieces. Well, if you put 4 pieces on anything on a ticket that's extended 3 or 4 races, it costs a lot of money, even at 50 cents. So what do you know about horse racing? You can have a $40 ticket, but it's really 80, 50-cent bets. You could lose 79 of 80 of those and still win a lot of money, and that's that. I think that's why horse racing is really, besides the fact that, people don't like you riding horses for money. The bottom line is it's really underappreciated by most sports bettors, but it seems like they're either people that just dabble, or there's people that are horse players. They show up in the morning with their little briefcase, with their paper bag and a sandwich and the racing forms. And I really think we're somewhere in the middle. We're able to use it as a tool, enjoy it for what it is. Really, think about, I thought it was 90 minutes. It's really like 23 minutes. It's, I think, 5:07 to 5:30. So in 23 minutes, all 3 of those races are going to go off at the same time. And it really is, it's a pretty exciting time. And the third one, of course, is the race from California. It is the San Felipe. And now Wes has some opinions about the San Felipe. I can bet the San Felipe legally here in California. I can't bet anything else that we do all weekend on our cash tickets page. I can't do any of that in California, but it looks like it's going to change for Joe in Connecticut, because he can now bet, it looks like, legally.
Yeah, we got some exciting developments this week. It looked like Connecticut finally has made an agreement with the 2 big casinos here, and we're going to have sports gambling on the horizon. It's going to be interesting times. We're going to be able to go to an OTB, make some bets.
I have so many now. We accept the fact that I'm old, but I'm telling you, I have so many fond memories of summer days in the parking lot at the OTB, using the car door as the strike zone for wiffle ball. Talk to me. What about this Santa Anita race?
Caught my eye right away in this race, and it's John Velasquez coming west to ride for Bob Baffert. It's really rare that Velasquez doesn't have one of Todd Pletcher's mounts in the prep races, and Pletcher has horses in both Florida and in New York on Saturday. But Velasquez is coming east to ride for Baffert. Baffert has another horse in this race with Mike Smith, who had a lot of good luck with Arrogate, and a few other horses. Joel Rosario, who's having a nice winter, riding for Peter Urton. He's settled out west. And then, Abel Cedillo, Flavian Pratt, Gutierrez, Hernandez, every jockey is good in this race. Every trainer is good in this race. It'll be very, very interesting to see who shakes out as a winner in here and advances to the Santa Anita Derby. California has had some strong horses in the past 10, 15 years leading up to the Derby, and I expect another strong one to emerge here.
And let's talk about that. This is it. If you're not hopping on a horse before this races, as in terms of Kentucky Derby future, you're waiting too long, right? This is when you got to do it. So the question I have for you is, what do you think? Do you do pools? Do you do futures? What's better for you?
It's tough. If ahead of time I like a horse, if I think I can get a really nice odds on a Kentucky Derby future horse, I'll make the bet. In a sense, I feel like I'm throwing a little bit of money away, throwing a little bit into the air and saying, gee, if I get lucky and a couple of things break right, and you try to create some value, but it's a tough proposition to make a bet on a race that isn't run yet, where the entries aren't available yet. You don't know if the horse is going to make it. The odds aren't steady. It's very hard. With that being said, money has left my account on a futures bet every year in the last 5 years. So I'm sure I'll be making one.
Let me tell you, you don't need a big winning percentage at 50-1. That's for sure. All right, buddy. So this weekend, what we'll do is we'll be getting our picks back and forth, and we'll let those people follow us. The bottom line is, we do the work. You put the bets in, you keep the winnings.
And really, it's not a bad deal if you think about it. Well, we're not really even selling you our picks. We're just talking about our opinions. And so right now, your guys' opinion was on this Flyers game, and Wes was all over under 8.5, correct?
I was, and this second period just ended with 5 goals on the board. So
now that looks like a genius play because it's minus 400 almost. Did you hop on the 1.5? Because I know you both had Philly at 2.5 plus 2.5.
Yeah, I didn't hop on the 1.5. I took Philly early, really fast fingers, 3.5, and it was gone in 5 seconds. And then I went back in for the +2 when we were talking about it earlier, and the under 8.5.
Yeah, it really is amazing how quickly those lines move. All right, so when we get back from break, we're gonna start talking about the weekend. We're gonna start looking at some plays. We're gonna finish up talking about the prep races. We're gonna check our live plays. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly. You might be watching at sportsbettingweeklylive.com. You might be listening on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. Or if it's Thursday and it's 8 o'clock Eastern, between 8 and 9, Riley, it's like 8:41 Eastern time. It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At ChampionshipFootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Gramps is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is championshipfootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, 2 things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and ChampionshipFootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. ChampionshipFootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, ChampionshipFootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the ChampionshipFootballs.com autographed footballs. ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I'm Second Half Chaz. You are following us on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to us on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network, or always our last show. It's always our last thing. And sometimes it's not a show. It's whatever we did last is at sportsbettingweeklylive.com. But I'm telling you right now, the most important aspect of this show is you got to go to sportsbettingweekly.com and look for the cash tickets page. That is the page that'll make it worth watching this show. And I'm talking about very, very much worth it. However, every weekend, you never know. So let's talk to John. John, I mean, how many weeks do we go where we just kick ass before, we're going to be human again, aren't we?
You want to know what happens. It's almost the law of averages, especially when it comes to betting. When you're hot, it feels so good. When you're constantly winning, you want to ride that train forever. But, as the saying goes, all good things come to an end. We've been cashing a lot of tickets lately, so I hope that end isn't coming soon. That's the only thing we could try to prevent. But, this is where bankroll management comes into play as well. Got to be treated as a business. Be smart with it. Try not to expose yourself to that downside too many times.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you, Wes. That's an excellent segue. All right, so I had a big weekend, but I didn't change my units. I kept the money. What do you think? How did I do?
Well, you're fine because you're cashing tickets. I advise everybody that follows me on 151 Sports Investing, pick a payday. Monday's mine. I get paid every Monday. And even if I have to move backwards in the account balance from where I was prior, I get paid every Monday. And you just have to stay there. If it's a good enough week, I advise, press your unit by 10%, press your unit by 25%. But no matter what, you're taking half of your winnings out so that you can fund and bankroll that press. But the kind of weeks that we've been having, I'm cashing out more than I'm pressing at this point, just because you go into low and you just don't read. There's days where you just don't read that racing form the right way, but you gotta pay yourself. If you don't pay yourself, I don't believe that you're investing. I believe that truly is gambling.
No, I have seen guys that are $20 players. They get hot. They get up like $5,000. They become $100 players. They go on a little cold streak. So they won like 50 games to get where they are, and they lost 15 in a row, and now they're broke even again.
And a lot of it has to do with what your discipline level is within your unit. I mean, I could tell you, as you met him, Muhammad, he was on the show a few months ago. He was a $20 better to start the football season. And if I told you the dollar that he was betting come Super Bowl time and how many times he paid himself, it was grown man's annual salary that he built himself up to just following a good portfolio management strategy and staying disciplined to the payday.
And it really is. What you gotta say, and I always tell people golf, you gotta say it's discretionary income, because I'm pretty sure if you got your mortgage with Bank of whatever ain't gonna care that you got it hooked on a missed field goal. You lost by half a point. So I can't pay your mortgage this month. That ain't going to work. They will take your car, guys. I know it for a fact. I've never had a car repossessed, but I do know that they will take your car because they come and they take your car. I've been in businesses where the guy went out and there's some guy towed his car away. And I reminded him, if you pay your bills, they don't take your car usually. So you got to make sure you're playing smart. So let's talk about this weekend. John, what are you looking at this weekend? Give us a tease of where we're going to be batting if we talk to you.
Probably, I would say anywhere from 80 to 90% of the plays is going to be on college basketball for Saturday. We're going to peek into some NHL. Obviously, NBA is on break, so that kind of shifts all of our focus just strictly on college basketball. We got all day plays. Like I said, here in Vegas, it's 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. So there's a lot of opportunities there.
All right, so let's look at college basketball. Right now, your top three teams that when you say their name, you feel a little tingle inside. Like you have a girlfriend and somebody mentions your girlfriend and you feel good. Your top three college basketball teams that make you feel good inside right now.
Well, right now, just probably Gonzaga. They've been on a little bit of a kind of rough streak the last couple of games, and they're playing well. If you've been watching the show, then obviously I've been tailing Florida State for a while. They had that one rough game, but then, you see what they did. I think it was yesterday or the night before. They had a pretty solid bounce back there. So I'll be eyeing them again. And then also there's a couple other teams, but Drake as well. Kind of a mid-major. If you're not familiar with Drake, you really should have been playing them from the beginning of the year because they had a lot of cashes for people.
Yeah, they were on a tear. Mine are the Aztecs, of course. They're my team, but they're also doing what they're supposed to do. Houston, without a doubt. Houston have been winning a lot. And again, Gonzaga, with all due respect to Gonzaga, they're giving 30-something points now. They were given 24 and winning by 26. You win by 26, you're playing guys at the end of the game to get them minutes. You know what I mean? And so in college basketball, if you see that, you're going to see teams that don't cover point spreads in March Madness because they're putting guys on the court because the game is over. It doesn't matter whether they're winning or losing either way. If the game is over and there's no longer fouls and shoot threes and fouls and shoot threes, then they're going to put guys on to say they played in March Madness. And, oh, my God, that's when the point spreads kill you, Wes.
That's where the point spreads kill you. And I'll for me, you guys kind of hit it. It's hard to argue with Gonzaga. I mean, they're making it look easy. They're playing a video game with the rest of the country. Houston has paid us a bunch, and I think that where Houston is going to find themselves in the game is going to be perfect striking distance. And I think that there's going to be some favorable spreads that work in our favor. We may even be able to catch some money lines where Houston shows up. And I think another interesting one. I don't know that it gives me chills to mention it, but I think Alabama is a really interesting one coming out of the conference they come out in, and I think that on the right day they can beat anybody in the country. So they're an interesting one, and they're going to be one of those mid-level seeds. So that's a team I'm going to be looking to invest in come bracket time.
Yeah, and of course, once we get into the conference tournaments, there's still some money to be made because you could look and see. You don't have to say, all right, I'm comparing an ACC team to an SEC team, kind of like in bowl games. You can't do that. But in the conference tournaments coming up, there's money to be made, especially on those two teams that are rested. Most conferences, the top two teams rest, and they come out and they usually dominate. They're given a lot of points, but usually they dominate. In those games, I would imagine you could cash 80-85% at the time.
Yeah, there's going to be some advantages, just kind of what you said. This is a time of the year where if you're betting college basketball, you have to pay attention to the scheduling, how many games that certain teams have played, within the last week, within the last couple of days. I know it's kind of been a shortened season, obviously, because of COVID, but, fatigue and, kind of players, this is a factor. And so this is something you got to take into consideration when you're betting here in March.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you saw a couple teams had almost a month off. I mean, that's really now. Wasn't Baylor one of them? I think, right? Baylor had a almost 3 weeks without a game, or maybe even closer to a month. That's tough on everybody. I don't care who it is, All right, so let's talk about Wes. Wes, this weekend, give us a tease. What are we gonna be betting on?
I'm getting pretty deep into FCS football. It's hard to follow because it's not widely covered, but we're going on 3 weeks that I have a pretty good feel of what's going on in this FCS. And like I said, there's a really juicy underdog that I'm on, and I feel like this dog is going to not just the points, but they're going to win outright. So I'm going to have some action. I'm going to be fighting action on money line on a juicy dog that should pay 2 or 3 to 1.
Well, let me ask you this: how many FCS games will you bet this weekend? Is it just Saturday, or are they playing Sundays too?
Well, there's 2 games on right now, and I didn't touch those, but there's about a dozen games on, and I'm going to be in 4 of them for sure. Live action doesn't exist, so the FCS it's kind of like going into a sports book in Vegas, which I learned this past weekend. You lay your action and keep your fingers crossed. You want to fix it with live action.
Right, and it's only game action, right?
It's only game action. There, I didn't see any halftime bets, but I'll be in 4 FCS games. I'm playing the Oak Lawn card, and then there's 3 hockey games on Saturday that I really like, and then there's another 4 hockey games on Sunday. So I can tell you that if you're looking for action, I'm going to have minimum 11 games going on, not to mention the live that I'm planning on jumping into, and of course Monday's payday. And so if you click that West button, we're going to talk about how you pay yourself on Monday.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool because again, when it's illegal, it's different than when it's legal betting, and it really, you notice it in the ease of getting paid. And if you think about it, in the old days, what good was getting paid if your bookie stiffed you, right? And bookies stiff people all the time. Then they had to move usually, and start somewhere else. But the bottom line is, when I was using Express Bet at the Old Town Tequila Factory, it was like having an OTB in my pocket. That's what it was like. It was so cool. And it was really just a click. It took me a click. I hit withdraw, and I think I had to put the number in, but they told me the number. I didn't even have to do math. They told me this is what you can take, because you can take, in most places, the original money you have to hold, depending on how you put it in there. And with me, it's legal, so it's through the bank. And I don't have a problem with that. But as you know, with offshore, there's been days where they make you jump through hoops to get your money. And you can't, I don't know about you guys. Well, John's mostly legit now, right? John, you haven't bet offshore in years, right?
Very, very rare. Only if I'm out of state on vacation somewhere, not in Nevada. If I do, I'll use my bookie, because I use them for a while. So that's about the only site that I actually trust. But yeah, 99.9 of my bets are based right here, local in Las Vegas. So
Wes, does your book allow you to withdraw 3 times in one day?
Mute.
How about now?
I think I'm on mute. Yeah, my book, what I'll do is I'll set that withdrawal, but then go back and cancel it and adjust it. And I'm pretty meticulous about how I do my withdrawals. My Discord page, I have some really smart minds that follow the crypto. So a lot of times I can get a nice bump by waiting or cashing out with a specific type of crypto. But if I'm going to cash out a second time in a day, I'll probably just adjust the withdrawal. But I don't do that. I will keep. I stay pretty disciplined. I cash out on Monday, and my unit doesn't really fluctuate. If I'm going to press my unit, I do it for the week, and I stay on message with that, and I cash out on Monday.
Yeah, and really that's the best way to do it. There's no doubt about it. All right, so here's what we got. I'm looking at, and I've told you my philosophy in horse racing is that I'm only looking at playing those extended races, the pick 3s and the pick 4s, when all of the racers are quality. I'm not going to be betting a pick 4 if in the middle they throw a dog race, because they know, the racetrack knows that everybody else is. Well, good for everybody else. I've never been a big do what everybody else does kind of guy. What I'm looking at is in New York, the 6th race is $250, the 7th race is $200, the 8th race is $1.25, and the Gotham is $300. So it's a pick 4 leading to the Gotham. So I will be reading all of those races. Now, does it mean I'm going to bet them? No, I could throw it out. Remember, you guys, when I sent you the original text on Sunday, it was going to be 3 races at Oaklawn. And they had that the 6th, the 8th, and the 9th were good races, West. But I threw out the 6th because I just didn't have a feel for it. And boom, I hit a try and a super in the next 2 races. So obviously, again, I was reading the Oaklawn form good. California is the race is the 6th race. They have the Santa Anita Handicapped, and as Wes and John know, that's a very prestigious race, and it's a big time race, and that's what they're doing. So they're setting up their pick 3 at the end, the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th, $200,000, $400,000, $400,000. So I will bet that pick 3, but I will not bet a pick 5 with the San Felipe because I'm not betting the middle race. Tampa Bay did a great job. You heard me mention it when we talked to Joe. The 9th is $2.25. The 10th is $200,000. The 11th is $400,000. It's actually the highest paying of all 3 of the prep races this weekend is that Tampa Bay Derby. So I will be betting that pick 3. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 races. That's 11 races. That means I don't have to set the alarm, John, to get up and get the racing form because they don't usually show up till like 10 or 11. But I will get the racing form early, and I will start working on those. And then, as you guys know, if you've never bet horse racing, you really can't put your bets into the next day anyway. Even when they do have future bets on Breeders' Cup and the Derby, you can bet on Friday, you can bet Saturday. You wake up Saturday morning, and there's almost always changes. Now, we talked about the difference between trainers and jockeys. Before we go, remember, Wes, when you were off a horse, we talked about because you didn't like the jockey, and then earlier in the day he wins 3 in a row?
I will never forget it. It was Tyler Gassioni, and he had one of his best days of his career that day, and I threw the horse out the window because I didn't like him on that particular day.
All right, so on the bottom of the screen, you can check out John on Instagram, GMF_sports_consultants. Follow Wes on Twitter at 151_sports. You can play just like the public does. You go to bit.ly, which is just a URL shortener. Cash tickets here, because that's what we do. But really, sportsbettingweeklylive.com, you can't miss it. Plus, it's not like we're making this stuff up. You could listen to every single show John was ever on. You could listen to every single phone call we ever did with Wes. It's right there, sportsbettingweekly.com. John, Wes, thanks for joining us. I am Second Half Chaz. You've been listening to Sports Betting Weekly. Check it out later on sportsbettingweeklylive.com every Thursday on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Don't forget Saturday nights, I joined the DCs on the Belly Up Fantasy Show. I'm not sure what we're going to do Sunday because they're really big into the NBA. And, of course, sportsbettingweeklylive.com. I'm Second Half Chaz. Always be cashing.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.